How much time do you think these soldiers spent farming and producing versus training? And how well did that even work out? It was only then, facing such a severe crisis, that the PCC, the Communist Party of Cuba, finally came to its senses. So they proposed an open-door policy, realizing they could not just rely on foreign aid to achieve industrialization. They had to pursue self-reliance. At the very least, they had to figure out a way to find substitutes for the food supply. So instead of relying on imports, they launched a food self-sufficiency promotion plan to boost their own food production. At the same time, what were they going to do without oil? To conduct oil exploration and develop their own oil industry. I mean, there is still some oil around the Gulf of Mexico. So if Cuba had really gotten its act together years ago, who knows? It might have even managed to develop 1 or 2 offshore oil fields. All right, so after seeing how incredibly difficult life was for the farmers, it was Raul Castro who took the lead in suggesting to Fidel that they reopen the agricultural and livestock market in 1994, a full 8 years after it had been shut down. So let me tell you, a lot of people online, they see Cuba as some kind of socialist utopia. You know what they say about Cuba, free healthcare, free housing in Cuba, right? How about that? And I am telling you, without exaggeration, for over 20 years, Cuba's economy was running at a high level. So for the Cuban economy and for this whole high standard of living in Cuban society, free healthcare, free education, free housing, where does it all come from? The source of all this was the market system of the Jinhu Conference and subsidies from the Soviet Union. It was all built on those subsidies. But as the saying goes, what makes you rise by it will make you fall by it. And this reliance on subsidies meant that for decades, Cuba never had to learn how to be self-reliant. In fact, Cuba's agriculture basically vanished. Its industry was also completely wiped out. All the land, all the industry, all the labor, both industrial and agricultural, was channeled into one single thing, sugar production. In fact, in the 1980s, Cuba even massively expanded its sugar industry. And just as that expansion was complete, after only a few years of reaping the rewards, the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, right? So what does that mean? It means all that massive investment they made could not generate any returns. And on top of that, the quality of Cuban sugar itself, it was all about, it was all about quantity, not quality, right? Not about diversifying the product range. That was the whole logic behind it. That is the kind of logic they were working with. And this is the kind of Cuban sugar that was common back in the day. In the era of Tuanzuo, it was a staple you could find in pretty much every household. So, yeah, that is what it looked like. And, when it comes down to it, the sugar they exported was basically a primary raw material, not a finished product. So when you taste it, it is sweet, but with a hint of bitterness, and then there is this kind of weird aftertaste. I do not know if any of you have ever had the chance to try Cuban sugar, but it is nothing like the white sugar we have today. I would say the aftertaste was not great, and it did not look good either. So what was its one and only advantage? It could be produced in massive quantities. So I'm saying that by today's standards, it is really just a raw material for making refined sugar, basically a semi-finished product. Its only real importance was within the Soviet financial exchange system, because Russian and Eastern European cuisines, they have a ton of desserts and just love using sugar. So you see, this whole sugar industry of theirs was built on Soviet oil, Soviet technology, Soviet equipment, and of course, Cuban labor. So after the Soviet Union's guaranteed purchases were gone, and they had to enter the international market in the 1990s, you tell me, was not their position already pretty weak? Strong competitive edge, plus its financial transactions are hit with our sanctions. I mean, anyone who trades with them gets sanctioned too. So does not that just completely cripple Cuba's exports? So with its export economy being so weak, it just could not get enough foreign currency. So this created a really difficult situation for them. So over these past 20 years, Cuba has tried a lot of different things. For instance, they have restructured the sugar industry multiple times. So in 2002, out of the country's 165 sugar mills, 17 were shut down. 5 were converted into tourist museums. 5 were kept in reserve, basically mothballed. 61 were just straight up dismantled. So that left 71 to produce raw sugar. And another 14 were used to make animal feed. Sure, you can take sugarcane and turn it into animal feed, right? But the thing is, they only cut back on production. Their production technology never improved. It was not until 2011 that the Cuban government started to separate government functions from business operations. They abolished the Ministry of Sugar and established the AZC-UBA Sugar Corporation. It was not until 2012 that they started cooperating with Brazil, allowing Brazilian, so the one that came in, to have this capitalist private Brazilian company provide the funding, equipment, technology, and expertise. to bring in some new equipment and the machinery to upgrade the sugar mills. But how much can Brazil really invest, right? So the scale of the investment was pretty limited, and yeah, it did not really make a huge difference. So despite all these reforms and changes, Cuba's sugar production just kept on declining. Back in the day, how much could they produce annually? We are talking 7 to 8 million tons. Now, within Cuba, the annual domestic sugar consumption is about 600,000 to 700,000 tons. The rest was meant for export. So what is the number now? They cannot even manage 200,000 tons anymore. So last year, how much did they even produce? Did they even hit 200,000 tons? Let me see. Last year, I think I remember, right? Last year, they still managed to get close. They hit about 200,000 tons. And here, let me just go on a little tangent. Now, listen up. Do not go saying that China, as a socialist country, is just leaving Cuba, another socialist country, to fend for itself. And do not, you dare say we are not helping Cuba. We are their second largest trading partner. Cuba is our fifth